Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 5 based on novel. So let's start. A deathly still and almost frozen atmosphere circled the area outside of the Ninetail village. Everyone was completely stunned because of the scene in front of them. The most ferocious warrior of Deep Lightning Mountain was actually kneeling on one knee in front of this skinny young man whom seemed so flimsy that a single slap from the former would likely turn him into meat pulp. Moreover, the red tiger eyes caused everyone to be filled with an absurd feeling. How could this fierce warrior who was renowned for his brutality actually show such an appearance? If one was to say that this person would shed tears within Deep Lightning Mountain, it would likely immediately attract a large number of gazes that looked as though they were watching a fool. However, this scene had truly appeared in front of them at this moment. Meng Shan was also stunned as he gazed at the metal tower-like figure kneeling with one knee on the ground. He clearly remembered that when the demon commander recruited the latter as a general, this metal tower-like man did not even kneel before the commander. Now, however, he was kneeling before a human. Since even Meng Shan was stunned, even less needed to be said about the others from Deep Lightning Mountain. Their mouths twitched as they watched this scene. All of them clearly understood that an uproar would envelope the entire Deep Lightning Mountain if word of this spread. Behind Lin Dong, the originally despairing Aunt Xin and the rest were also startled because of this scene. They were closest to Lin Dong, hence they naturally heard the words from the metal tower man's mouth. Big brother. Aunt Xin's group was taken aback. However, they quickly understood the situation. Could it be that this #1 ferocious warrior of Deep Lightning Mountain was the person that Lin Dong had come to the Beast War region to look for? Their expressions involuntarily became a little strange when they thought of this. They did believe that someone who could be brothers with Lin Dong should possess a certain level of strength. However, they would never expected that this so-called certain level of strength had actually reached the level of the Deep Lightning Mountain's top ferocious warrior. What is going on? Those young ladies within the Ninetail tribe also hurriedly looked outside of the village. The appearance of the Black Army earlier had caused their faces to pale. However, they quickly saw this incredible scene. Is that the tiger-devouring army? Could that man be the top fierce warrior of Deep Lightning Mountain, General Flame? Why would he kneel in front of Sir Lin Dong? What is going on? Continuous chatter like 100 birds chirping continued to spread across the area. Those young ladies widened their eyes as they looked outside. Their eyes were filled with curiosity and confusion. Is he the brother that Lin Dong is looking for? Qing Qing was also startled as she looked outside of the village before she finally ended up mumbling in a soft voice. This scene before her had clearly clued her in onto something. What? The top fierce warrior of Deep Lightning Mountain is actually the brother of Sir Lin Dong? How amazing! That fellow is said to be extremely brutal. I never would have imagined that he would be so gentle in front of Sir Lin Dong. Lin Dong gently ruffled the hair of the metal tower man in front of him. His heart was also surging wildly with intense feelings. Little Martin was the most difficult to bully amongst the three of them. Hence, Lin Dong was not worried about the latter's safety. Others should be thanking the heavens if Little Martin did not find trouble with them. Only Little Flame caused Lin Dong to be greatly worried. This fellow was usually simple and honest. This was because most things were decided for him by Lin Dong, and Little Martin and Little Flame did not need to think much. All he did was to do as he was told by the both of them. The demon region was chaotic. Naturally, Lin Dong was worried that Little Flame had met with some trouble. Now that he had seen the latter standing in front of him alive, he was finally able to put aside the worry in his heart. It is good that you are still alive. Lin Dong looked at the moist red tiger eyes of the metal tower young man in front of him and laughed. Stand up. This is so unsightly. Little Flame nodded. Some of the injury on his face caused him to appear exceptionally savage and ferocious. Under Lin Dong's gaze, his ferocious face, which could cause one's limbs to turn to jelly, revealed a simple and honest smile that had not appeared for a long time. You have many injuries. It must have been hard on you during these few years. Lin Dong only managed to carefully observe Little Flame after he stood up. The current Little Flame was a lot stronger compared to before. He had clearly experienced too much. It was possible to see this from the many overlapping scars on his body. This caused Lin Dong's heart to somewhat ache. Nevertheless, he understood that Little Flame must be allowed to roam the world alone in order to truly hone himself. Little Flame was a ferocious tiger and not a strong cat that followed obediently behind him and Little Martin. Little Flame parted his mouth into a smile. He quickly said, "I will tell Big Brother about the various incidents during the past year, but I need to first settle something." Lin Dong looked at Meng Shan, whose expression had suddenly stiffened. He nodded slightly and did not speak. There was now no need for Lin Dong to comment when Little Flame did anything. Little Flame turned around. The moment he did so, everyone could sense the monstrous brutality that seemed to have completely disappeared from his body earlier suddenly surged crazily like floodwaters. At this moment, he had once again become the tiger-devouring army's #1 ferocious general of Deep Lightning Mountain. As Little Flame turned around, his scarlet eyes were thrown onto the stiff-faced Meng Shan. The latter's body involuntarily trembled upon seeing those tiger eyes which were filled with ferocity. A forced smile appeared on his face as he said, "Ha ha, it is Brother Yang. I never imagined that you would be acquainted with this Brother Lin Dong. I have sent someone to pass this information to you before." Little Flame took a step forward and headed towards Meng Shan. Dark red blood light slowly gathered behind him. It seemed to have turned into a blood-red light tiger that roared towards the sky, an extremely ferocious sight. Meng Shan's expression quickly altered. He was indeed aware that Little Flame had dispatched someone to pass this information to him. However, he had already begun to move and had simply sent someone to stop the messenger. "Brother Flame, it is a misunderstanding. If I had known of your relation with him, I definitely would not have come here." Meng Shan hurriedly spoke as he smiled. Although he was also one of the 9 great warriors of Deep Lightning Mountain, he clearly understood that he must not offend Little Flame. Otherwise, the latter would not have such be able to firmly sit in the position of top warrior within a short 1 year. A misunderstanding, huh? Little Flame stopped in front of Meng Shan. He parted his mouth into a smile. Those sinisterly white teeth caused one to shudder. Meng Shan hurriedly nodded upon hearing this. "However, you must still die." A smile emerged from the corners of Little Flame's mouth and instantly became malicious. He clenched his large hand and a fist was thrown forward. Monstrous blood light gathered, turning into a blood-red light tiger that was accompanied by shocking ferocity as it ruthlessly rushed towards Meng Shan in an explosive manner. "You?" Meng Shan's expression changed drastically. In the next moment, majestic Yuan power erupted from within his body and turned into an enormous yellow wall. Bang! The huge fist smashed downwards in a ruthless fashion and the wall collapsed. Rock fragments shot outwards as Meng Shan retreated in a miserable fashion while yellow light symbols surfaced on his body. They appeared like a layer of scales that were incomparably hard. "General Yang, how dare you try to kill me? The Lord will not forgive you!" Meng Shan cried out furiously. The expressions of Meng Shan's Metal Mountain guards changed when they saw him being attacked. However, before they could step forward, they suddenly detected a shockingly ferocious aura crash into them. All of them hurriedly lifted their heads. They could see the Black Army's many pairs of dark red eyes staring at them. Those expressions made them understand that if they were to take a step forward, a slaughter would be awaiting them. This tiger-devouring army which only knew how to kill clearly would not show any mercy just because they belonged to Deep Lightning Mountain. In their eyes, only General Yang existed. There was no one else, not even the demon commander of Deep Lightning Mountain. This was because this was an army personally built by General Yang. Little Flame's footsteps paused for a moment because of Meng Shan's furious cry. The latter thought that his warning was effective upon seeing this. However, before he could sigh in relief, he saw cruelness gathering at a shocking speed within Little Flame's tiger eyes. Bang! While unease clouded Meng Shan's heart, he saw Little Flame's body suddenly turning illusory. His expression quickly changed and he violently pulled back. Swoosh! A shadow appeared behind him in a ghost-like fashion as he pulled back. Before his expression could pale due to horror, a black giant tiger claw tore through space and grabbed his arm. After which, the black figure abruptly pulled and ruthlessly smashed Meng Shan onto the mountain wall at their side. Bang bang bang. The mountain collapsed. Soon after, everyone inhaled a breath of cold air as they saw the metal tower-like figure violently swing Meng Shan onto the surroundings. Within a short 10 breaths, the ground was already covered with deep pits. Many big dents had also appeared on the rock walls by the side. Violence. This term had been perfectly displayed by Little Flame. Meng Shan, whose strength was half a step into the perfect profound death stage, was actually completely unable to retaliate. Lin Dong wore a surprised expression as he watched this scene. Little Flame's strength should be at the advanced profound death stage. However, Lin Dong could detect a somewhat mysterious ripple from Little Flame's body. It seemed that Little Flame had his own lucky encounter during this 1 year. Otherwise, it would be impossible for his level to exceed Lin Dong even with his evolving physique. Bang! Dust gradually fell in front of the many watching eyes. After which, everyone saw the metal tower-like figure dragging a body that one did not know was dead or alive as he walked out of the dust. He casually tossed the figure at those metal mountain guards as if it was garbage. Get lost. Little Flame's scarlet eyes looked at the group of metal mountain guards as he spoke in a hoarse voice. The metal mountain guards who previously gave off an oppressive aura immediately backed away in horror. They did not have the least bit of courage against this #1 ferocious warrior of Deep Lightning Mountain. The place quickly became a little spacious as the metal mountain guards miserably withdrew. After which, Little Flame turned around and looked at the somewhat pale Qin Gang before parting his mouth as he laughed. Why aren't you leaving? The Ninetail village is under my protection. I will kill anyone from your 100 Beast Ridge if you dare come and collect the tribute. Qin Gang's face twitched. He wanted to retort, however, in the face of Little Flame's scarlet tiger eyes and Meng Shan's earlier fate, he ultimately swallowed the words that were at the tip of his tongue. He slapped the bat under him and decisively turned around. Finally, he led his group and fled miserably into the distance. Anshin's group watched the outside area of the village which had become completely empty within a couple of minutes. After which, they looked at the now simple and honest-looking Little Flame, who had turned around and walked towards Lin Dong. They could only silently digest the shock in their hearts. The #1 ferocious general was a well-deserved title. Anshin and the others in the Ninetail village stood under a building. Their eyes occasionally looked towards the second story where two completely different-sized figures were faintly visible. Anshin's eyes paused on the metal tower-like figure. After which, she sighed and withdrew her eyes. She glanced outside the Ninetail village where an extremely quiet army rested like a slumbering tiger. Even though this army did not display any enmity, its ferocious aura still caused the members of the Ninetail village to feel an extremely oppressive pressure. It is really unexpected. The person young brother Lin Dong is searching for is actually that #1 fierce general of Deep Lightning Mountain. An elder of the Ninetail tribe by the side exclaimed. The events today were clearly filled with ups and downs. Originally, they thought that their Ninetail village would be faced with quite a great danger. Unexpectedly, however, the sudden appearance of Little Flame had frightened off both Qin Gang and Meng Shan. Moreover, Little Flame's final words clearly had the intention of protecting their Ninetail tribe. It was likely that anyone planning on targeting the Ninetail tribe would have to think twice from now on. This young brother Lin Dong is really a blessing to our Ninetail tribe. Anshin laughed. Little Flame possessed an extremely strong reputation in Deep Lightning Mountain. It was likely that few would take the risk of offending him to harm their Ninetail tribe after he issued those words. That's right, this General Yan is quite powerful. Qin Qing by the side also extended her small head. She looked at the two figures on the second story in adoration as she smilingly said. Based on what I am aware of, Big Brother Lin Dong has two brothers. One is this General Yang while the other is a great person from the Celestial Demon Martin tribe. The expressions of Anshin's group altered once again. Celestial Demon Martin, that was one of the 4 overlord tribes of the demonic beast world. These brothers of Lin Dong were indeed just as outstanding as him. Anshin rubbed Qin Qing's small head. A moment later, she lifted her head to look at the figures in the building as an indescribable expression flashed across her eyes. Back then, the spatial teleportation was disrupted by those three old awfuls from the Yuan Gate. After which, I was transported to this Beast War region. Back then, I was injured and had to recuperate for a month before gradually recovering. Subsequently, I roamed this Beast War region for a period of time. On one of my expeditions, I ended up in a cave dwelling owned by a Samsara stage super expert when he was alive. He also possessed the bloodline of the Tiger tribe, and I ended up inheriting the essence blood of that elder from there. Little Flame sat on the ground in the building and described his encounters within the Beast War region during the past year. Oh! Lin Dong came to a sudden comprehension upon hearing this. No wonder Little Flame's strength had advanced so quickly. He had actually obtained the essence blood inheritance of a Samsara stage super expert. Moreover, Little Flame had a mutated physique to begin with and was able to perfectly absorb the power of such a similar bloodline. However, I was unable to completely obtain the essence blood inheritance. This is because others had also discovered it when I obtained the inheritance. Little Flame curled his lips and appeared somewhat vengeful. That person is the demon commander of Deep Lightning Mountain, Xu Shong. Lin Dong was startled. Both of his eyes quickly narrowed. That fellow also possessed the bloodline of the Tiger tribe. Moreover, it is one of the three great tribes of the Tiger tribes, the Dark Abyss Tiger tribe, and he is extremely strong. Hence, I had to share half of the essence blood I obtained with him. Did things really go so well with this demon commander? Lin Dong asked with a faint smile. Although he had not met the demon commander of Deep Lightning Mountain, it was likely that the latter had some tricks in order to become a titan-like existence in this Beast War region. Yet, such a person had only requested for half of the essence blood inheritance. It was likely that Little Flame did not have the ability to fight with the demon commander back then. How could that be possible? Little Flame laughed coldly. However, I have a mutated physique. Back then, I had already absorbed the essence blood inheritance into my body. If he wanted to snatch it and I was to pit my life in a fight against him, he would not be able to obtain anything. After some discussion, we agreed to share the essence blood. In that case, why are you at Deep Lightning Mountain and why did you become his top general? Lin Dong asked. This matter appeared a little complicated. How can that fellow allow me to leave so easily? Moreover, I did not have any place to go back then. Hence, I chose to stay. Subsequently, I independently searched for a group of people of which all possess some bloodline of the Tiger tribe. Then, I shared some of my essence blood inheritance with them and began to lead them into battle. That is that tiger-devouring army, right? Lin Dong's eyes flickered. He quickly nodded and remarked, it is not a bad army. It has a strong fighting strength. Those fellows have lived up to my expectations. They are also absolutely loyal to me. I pulled them up from a state whereby anyone could humiliate them. Hence, even the demonic General Xu Shong of Deep Lightning Mountain desires them. Unfortunately, they will ignore all commands except for mine. Little Flame parted his lips into a smile. Since you possess this tiger-devouring army, it is likely that you are also qualified to leave Deep Lightning Mountain, right? If you remain, Xu Shong would continue to desire the essence blood inheritance that you have obtained as well as your army. Leave? Why should I leave? Little Flame looked at Lin Dong and grinned. His smile appeared somewhat crafty. Lin Dong narrowed his eyes. Soon after, he raised his eyebrows. It seems like you are also planning on obtaining the other half of the essence blood inheritance from Xu Shong. It originally belonged to me. How can I possibly allow him to gain such benefits? I have been waiting patiently for an entire year and fought battles for him, in order to wait for the arrival of the day. As long as I am able to obtain the other half of the essence blood inheritance, I will be able to reach the perfect profound death stage. Little Flame's scarlet tiger eyes stared at Lin Dong. The corners of his mouth formed an extremely fierce and malicious smile. Big brother, back then, the three of us were forced to flee the eastern Xian region like strays because of the Yuan Gate. At that time, both you and second brother risked everything to fight those three old dogs. On the other hand, I was merely a burden. I know that we will return one day, but I need strength in order to do so. The next time, I will no longer stand behind you and second brother. Therefore, I must retrieve the essence blood inheritance. Lin Dong frowned a little upon seeing the scarlet eyes of Little Flame. He said, "No one thinks of you as a burden." His voice paused for a moment as he observed the smiling Little Flame. "However, I will help you." He could imagine just how much hardship Little Flame had suffered alone in this Beast War region. The dangers Little Flame had experienced was not any less than what he had in the chaotic Demon Sea. Since Lin Dong had finally found him, he would naturally help Little Flame. This was because they were brothers. How powerful is this demon commander Xu Shong? Has he stepped into the samsara stage? No, he can only be considered to be at the peak of the perfect profound death stage. Although he is only one step away from the samsara stage, he cannot be considered as a samsara stage expert. Little Flame shook his head and replied. Lin Dong inclined his head. It was indeed much simpler if this was the case. After all, the gap between the samsara stage and the perfect profound death stage was far too great. There should be 8 other generals under Xu Zhong besides you, right? The strength of the 8 of them should be similar to Meng Shan, no? Lin Dong once again asked. These 8 warriors would pose a huge problem if they wished to deal with Xu Zhong. However, Big Brother need not be too worried about this. They might instead stand on our side. Little Flame chuckled. He quickly folded his sleeve up, revealing a dark black seal. The seal appeared as though it was imprinted deep in his flesh and was slowly wiggling. Lin Dong stared at the black seal. His eyes focused a little and quickly became icier. Was that placed on you by Xu Zhong? His senses were frighteningly sharp. At a glance, he could tell that this seal had submerged itself deep inside Little Flame's body. In fact, it would blast Little Flame apart with a mere thought from its owner. Yes, it is the deep dark ghost seal. Little Flame gave a sinister smile as he said, Xu Zhong is extremely cautious. He planted this thing into the 9 generals under him, including myself. Using this, he is able to control us. This fellow really deserves to die. There was a dark expression in Lin Dong's eyes. Although the chaotic Demon Sea was full of danger, no one had ever planted such a thing to control him. However, it is also fortunate that he is this cautious. Otherwise, why would the other great generals feel secretly disgruntled? 5 of the 8 generals have been convinced by me to revolt against him in the past 1 year. We will attack together and kill Xu Zhong when the opportunity arises. Little Flame spoke with vengeance. This time around, it was Lin Dong who was stunned. As he gazed at the metal tower-like man before him, he could not help but laugh. It seemed that Little Flame had changed drastically over the past year. Who could have imagined that the terribly simple and honest big fellow would be full of evil tricks now? If Xu Zhong was to learn that his subordinates were quietly convinced by Little Flame to oppose him, would he regret keeping this threat around in Deep Lightning Mountain? Originally, my plan was to act during the annual mountain gathering of Deep Lightning Mountain. I never imagined that I would be able to meet Big Brother now. With you around, our chances of success will increase significantly. Although Lin Dong was only at the initial profound death stage, Little Flame understood exceptionally well that the former's true fighting strength could not simply be measured by the surface. This deep dark ghost seal, Lin Dong glanced at the seal on Little Flame's arm. This thing was clearly like a time bomb, and it restrained those generals through fear. My body is fine. I have the mutated physique. During this 1 year, the seal has already been secretly eroded by me. Hence, it has lost its effect. However, the only problem is that the other 5 are also extremely worried about the seals in their bodies. Little Flame said. Let me take a look. Lin Dong extended his hand and gently touched the seal on Little Flame's arm. Threads of black light shot out from his finger and entered the latter's body. Little Flame did not stop Lin Dong. Instead, he allowed the foreign energy, which could turn his body into a mess, to enter. He naturally had unconditional trust in Lin Dong. This probing continued for a while before Lin Dong withdrew his hand. He mused for a moment and laughed softly. If it is this seal, I am able to undo it. Can Big Brother break this deep dark ghost seal? Joy immediately surged on Little Flame's face when he heard these words. Lin Dong smiled and nodded. He possessed the devouring ancestral symbol after all. Although a seal such as this that had submerged deep into the body was rather thorny to deal with, it was not impossible for him. Then that is what we will do. Once we manage to break the deep dark ghost seal in the bodies of those 5 fellows, they will definitely join us in dealing with Xu Shong. They already have a huge grudge against Xu Shong over the years due to the control of the seal. Little Flame heartily laughed. Are you planning to act half a month later? Lin Dong asked. Yes. Little Flame nodded. A cold smile flashed across his tiger eyes as he said, I am aware that even if I do not act this time, it is likely that Xu Shong will be unable to endure any longer. He has been stuck in the perfect profound death stage for far too long. The only shortcut to break through this bottleneck is to obtain the other half of the essence blood in my body. According to my estimates, he has nearly completely refined the half he had obtained over the past year. Lin Dong pursed his lips. Looks like he had arrived at the right time. If he came a little later, it would be difficult to predict just who would come out on top if Little Flame and Xu Shong fell out with each other. This caused Lin Dong to rejoice somewhat. When Little Flame was facing his greatest difficulty, he as the big brother must stand behind the former and support him through that great storm which could devour him. I will secretly make sure that everything is ready. At that time, Big Brother and I will proceed to Deep Lightning Mountain to finish off that fellow. Little Flame grinned and continued, with us brothers cooperating, it doesn't matter whether the other party is a demon commander. Besides death, there is no other fate that awaits him. Little Flame was overflowing with murderous intent towards that Xu Shong to begin with. If it was not because Little Flame had some tricks up his sleeve, he would have long been killed by the latter countless times over the past year. Despite this, he still had to endure and use his power to fight for the latter. Now, it was finally time for all of his anger to erupt. Lin Dong nodded slightly. He immediately said, have you managed to contact Little Martin after being in the demon region for such a long time? Second brother. I did not have the time to head to the celestial demon Martin tribe to look for him. Given second brother's character, if he is fine, he will definitely search for me within the demon region. However, I have not heard anything for such a long time. Hence, I believe that he should have ran into some trouble. He was the most gravely injured back in Unique Devil City. Igniting his clan symbol is not something that one can easily recuperate from. Little Flame scratched his head and said. Of course, other than this reason, Little Flame also had his own thoughts. He understood that if he headed to the celestial demon Martin tribe and met Little Martin, he would definitely have a much better time in the demon region. However, this was not what he wanted. He wanted to rely on his own strength to become stronger, instead of being sheltered under Lin Dong and Little Martin's wings. Therefore, he did not head to the celestial demon Martin tribe during this past year. Instead, he remained alone in the Beast War region. Even though this place was filled with danger, he had never given up. Lin Dong frowned slightly. It seemed that Little Martin's injuries were extremely serious this time. Big brother, do you have any way to contact second brother? Little Flame asked. Lin Dong rubbed his chin. Soon after, he seemed to have recalled something. With a clench of his hand, an extremely dim light appeared. This is the Yuan spirit communicator that Little Martin left me when he brought you along and departed from the Dao sect back then. However, this thing is almost at its breaking point after such a long time. I do not know if it will be able to send out any messages, all I can do is try. Lin Dong flicked his finger and a black light shot from his fingertip into the light. After which, the light shook violently. This continued for a moment before it shattered with a bang. However, space faintly rippled when it shattered and something was transmitted out. This is its limit, whether Little Martin receives it will depend on luck. Lin Dong shrugged his shoulders and felt somewhat helpless. After all, it had been far too long since this thing had been used. The imprint that Little Martin left inside had also gradually faded. Little Flame smiled and nodded. He said, Big brother and I should be able to resolve the matter here. It doesn't matter if second brother isn't here. Things won't be as fun if his celestial demon Martin identity is revealed. Lindong also smiled. The celestial demon Martin identity did indeed possess quite an intimidating effect in this demon region. Will Big Brother temporarily remain in the Ninetail village? Why don't you return with me? Lindong thought about it and shook his head. He said, I am not familiar with the situation of Deep Lightning Mountain and such matters shouldn't be an issue for you. All I need to do is to follow you to Deep Lightning Mountain when the time comes. All right. Little Flame did not have any objections when he heard this. If Shusong was to learn that Lindong had left with him, it was likely that the latter would investigate the matter and become cautious. This was not helpful to their plans. It is also just as well that you remain here. However, Big Brother should take note that although the current Ninetail tribe is weak, they are not simple. Little Flame hesitated for a moment and said, Yes, I know. Lindong smiled a little. In the distant past, the Ninetail tribe was a powerful tribe comparable to the 4 great overlord tribes. Although they are currently weak, they were definitely not simple. I will meet up again with Big Brother half a month later. Little Flame did not say much upon seeing this. He understood that Lindong was even more cautious than himself. There were many things that Little Flame only needed to mention briefly for Lindong to understand. Little Flame stood up after speaking. His huge body gave off a rather oppressive feeling. Lindong nodded and chuckled. His smile was a little cold. I really wish to meet the demon commander who dares to plant the ghost seal on you. Little Flame grinned. His ferocious smile was ferocious, akin to a man-eating tiger. He was finally able to act after enduring for a whole year. This caused the blood in his body to boil slightly. Relax, Big Brother, at that time, we will ensure that he repays his debt properly. When Lindong and Little Flame exited the building together, the originally noisy area outside quickly became much quieter. Those young ladies from the Ninetail tribe were crowded together in groups. The girls who were normally bold enough to step forward and greet Lindong did not dare approach the two at this moment. The reason for this was the metal tower-like man standing beside him. Young brother Lindong. Aunt Shin hurriedly stepped forward. She glanced at Little Flame and spoke respectfully, Sir General Yang. Chief Shin is too polite. It is thanks to your Ninetail tribe that Big Brother was able to arrive at this place and reunite with me. I still need to thank everyone. Little Flame cupped his hands together and spoke in a deep voice. The surrounding people, who had heard of this #1 general of Deep Lightning Mountain, involuntarily looked to each other after his words sounded. To think that the person who was rumored to have become numb to killing, and was infamous for his brutality, would actually thank others? Feel free to come look for me if your Ninetail tribe meets with any trouble in the future. There is also no need to pay the annual tribute. Little Flame said. In that case, thank you, esteemed one. Aunt Shin delightfully replied. The tribute that they had to pay each year was quite a big burden to them. Being able to do away with it was naturally an extremely joyous matter for them. Little Flame waved his hand. He turned around to look at Lindong and said, Big Brother, I will be heading back first. Okay. Be careful. Little Flame nodded. Without further ado, his body moved and he rushed out of the Ninetail village and arrived at the tiger-devouring army, which made the village feel very uneasy. The army unleashed a monstrous baleful aura like a ferocious awakened tiger. Let's go. Little Flame landed in the army. He cried out sternly and the army began to move like a machine. As the land trembled, a black torrent was like a tornado that swiftly ventured into the distance while accompanied by a baleful aura that seemingly covered the land and sky. Lindong looked at the black torrent which had disappeared into the horizon and could not help but nod a little in approval. Perhaps it was because Little Flame had given this tiger-devouring army some of the essence blood inheritance, allowing their aura to merge perfectly. That feeling was as though a tiger king was leading a group of ferocious tigers and charging forward. A feeling akin to one that stood haughtily as he looked down on the world. If Lindong was to fight with this Little Flame who controlled the devouring tiger army, it was likely that he would have difficulty obtaining much of an advantage even if he was to use all his techniques. After Little Flame and the tiger-devouring army left, the black clouds which seemed to have covered the area also disappeared. Those young ladies of the Nine-Tailed tribe swarmed towards Lindong, their chirping voices filled with allure. "Sir Lindong, is the General Yang really your brother? How amazing! He, Sir Lindong is also extremely mighty." Anshin looked at Lindong, who was smiling helplessly while being surrounded by many young ladies. She smiled and gently rubbed Xinqing's small head beside her. Soon after, she softly exhaled and seemed to have made a decision. The moon hung in the sky like a silver plate. Cooling moonlight scattered downwards and covered the land along with the endless mountain range. Lindong sat on a bed. Both of his eyes were shut. Black vortexes would form on the surface of his body from time to time. They devoured the surrounding thick yuan power at a shocking speed. A slender young lady was standing in the courtyard outside of the room as Lindong cultivated. She bit her small mouth with her teeth and occasionally clenched her small hand tightly, indicating the unease within her heart. At this moment, moonlight sprinkled down and shined on her bright and exquisite little face. She was Xinqing. She stood there for nearly 2 hours. Only after she felt the yuan power undulations within the room gradually weaken did she lifted her small face and deeply inhale a breath of air. A self-mocking look flitted across her clear eyes. Without hesitating, she slowly stepped forward and gently knocked the door. "Sir Lindong, come in." Lindong's ordinary voice was emitted. There was a trace of undetectable helplessness within it. Xinqing gently clenched her teeth. With gentle push of her small hands, the door creaked open and she slowly walked in. This video will end here.